the rising anti-Semitism, you think, be used as an opportunity in the defense of Western values?
I think the answer to that is yes. I think we have to, because the history of what happened to the Jews during the Holocaust is not so far away. The people who survived the Holocaust, many of them are still alive. And of course, for their children and grandchildren, it's the first story. I think it is the story of anti-Semitism and the story of scapegoating, of finding a minority to scapegoat and blame everything on, is a story that can be universally recognized. And if told well, I think we can stand with our Jewish communities and with the state of Israel against different forms of hatred. But in order to do that, we have to be honest with ourselves and with our Jewish communities and with the world at large about who exactly are we facing off with and what do we stand to lose.
To refer to the suffering of Jews during the Holocaust and referring to the scapegoating of Jews, and not only of Jews, but that has happened to other minorities as well. You think that is an opportunity to break the let's say the woke propaganda, the Islamist propaganda?
It's a piece of it, and I think I wouldn't use the word refer, I would use the word teach. Again, let me take you back to the Netherlands. I became aware of my anti-Semitism and my Jew hatred in the classroom because I was taught about the Holocaust. And that story appealed to me as a human being, and I realized that I had been lied to and that I was prejudiced against the people I had never met. And in fact, against the people who were persecuted and who had gone through a lot of suffering. In the late 90s and 2000s, when the Islamists were finding their voice and developing a clout in the Netherlands and other European countries, one of the demands they made was we should not teach about the Holocaust. People who have idiotic ideologies to advance deny the Holocaust. They don't want it taught. The same thing in America and back in Europe. Every time I look back and I see how is that going, you see that that's completely eliminated. And I'm not saying it's the only way, but I think if you want to build these common humanities, what do we have in common as Americans? And you want to open, again, the classroom for me is the place where education takes place. Of course, it's at home, and then it's in the classroom, and later on online. But to start these conversations, you have to tell the stories of people who look like you, who are the same age, the same circumstances, and look at what happened to them. We just use the big word anti-Semitism. And for a lot of young people, if they haven't been taught about the Holocaust, if they don't know any Jews, they don't know what happened. They're easy to lead this way or the other way. And you see also the resistance. I've come across it often. There is a resistance to using the word anti-Semitism. People say, but I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm simply criticizing Israel. Or I'm simply anti-Zionist. Or is it wrong to, does that make me an anti-Semite? And they know deep down that the scapegoating and the hatred towards Jews, and I think somewhere they also know that if you're seeking to eliminate Israel from the river to the sea, that makes you an anti-Semite. But to drive the point home, I think there is no alternative to teaching young people about the Holocaust, to taking them to Yad Vashem and other Holocaust memorials. That story has to be told. It changed my mind. I've seen it change the minds of hundreds of people. I think that especially now, I know this group knows it better than I do, the Arab Muslim countries have realized after Al-Qaeda and after ISIS and the triumph of the Muslim Brotherhood in 2011, 2012, when Mohammed Morsi became the elected president of Egypt, that they don't want the Islamist agenda. And a lot of these young, well-educated Gulf Arabs who are ready to normalize relations with Israel would welcome being educated on the Holocaust, not only to normalize relations with Israel, not only to become friends of Israel or allies, but to see for themselves that people who looked like them, who hail from the same background, at some point in Germany and in Europe, were found not to be of the perfect race, were accused of all sorts of mischief, and that hatred and prejudice was translated into actions that ended up in the gas chambers. I think that would give them, it's a basic story, and that story is not told, and all of these anti-Semitic groups and people resist the story of the Holocaust. They don't want to tell it, and we have to tell it.
Right. But for that, we have to win our classrooms back first, right?
Yes.
Do you have advice on that?
I have advice on how to win the classrooms back. For what it's worth, I think, number one, these sorts of culture wars don't fight themselves. Number two, the word coalition and clarity says it all. We have to find allies, even if we don't agree on everything, to say we agree on the big picture, which is American society, Western civilization has given us not a perfect opportunity to live freely and happily, but the best opportunity that humankind has known. Let's preserve it first, and then let's advance it. And to do that, that begins in the classroom. It's what is taught from pre-K to your university degree and beyond. And we have to recapture those institutions.